Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video, and I've completed my 2400 solo shuffle challenge on the Devastation Evoker. And in today's video, I wanted to break down some tips and tricks so that you can start to see success with this specialization and look forward to grinding up some rating and some of these limited time PvP rewards. I'm currently underway, and the closest I've ever been to getting 2400 on every single spec in one season for solo shuffle, ignoring tank specs. Obviously, and if you want to follow along with that live, I will be streaming as well pretty much every day. But in today's video, we are just focusing in on the Devastation Evoker. It was one of my easiest specializations to get to 2400. I think it's excellent for someone who doesn't have a lot of time to play in their day. It's very basic, very simple, and I'll just be running you through the most effective methods to start seeing success with this simple kit. And it doesn't have a lot of keybinds either, which is another great plus. So you can see here I've got a warrior on my team. We're fighting a shadow priest and a marksmanship hunter. It's double ranged. When you play with a melee DPS, you need to push in with them. You want to play aggressive with them so that they don't get caught overextended. So your entire team should push in, as we are currently here. We open on the shadow priest. We see pain suppression. We swap off pain suppression. Pain suppression reduces a lot of damage, so we don't want to send our cooldowns into it. So we'll switch onto the hunter and hammer through with our deep breath. We used our tip the scales fire breath with our dragon rage, and that forced aspect of the turtle. That forced another defensive cooldown. So we'll switch back onto the shadow priest temporarily while we wait for those defensive cooldowns to subside, and now switch back onto the marksmanship hunter. This is why it's a really good idea to get some add-ons like the big debuffs that I have here. Now I'm starting to hover in aggressively, looking for sleepwalks. That one got the trinket from the discipline priest. I see cyclones coming out, so I'm going to try and sleepwalk the healer instead. He fades it. It's not really a big deal. We're going to use our disintegrate here, timed with our big shattering star. We knock him out of the barrier here. You want to be using your knockbacks and your knockups. It's something I think a lot of beginner evokers kind of miss out on with huge opportunities. It's a lot of extra disruption, holding enemies in place with the knockup and also knocking them away. We got deep breath here. We look for a triple. Always really good to time a sleepwalk out of your deep breath stuns. This forces a void shift from the shadow priest. We can continue to hammer down damage here with shattering star, eternity surge, disintegrate, forcing another void shift, basically 2 for 1 there, and just one push, and we're still so close. Fire breath. You want to try and hit as many targets as you can, but it's also going to amplify your disintegrate damage, and everything about this class at the moment is basically top-ended into disintegrate. I sleepwalk the shadow priest to bait death and fade, and then I switch the sleepwalk to the healer, and then we're able to finish the target. Whenever you're fighting a priest, they have a lot of tools to stop sleepwalk, and it can be very difficult to get through them. That's why it's very important to find ways to either fake cast the Shadow or Death and get through the fade by casting Sleepwalk on another target, because you can spam Sleepwalk now, which has been an update for this season for the Evoker class in general. And it actually makes it a lot easier for getting through those mechanics, because before, if you just casted your Sleepwalk, finished the cast, and they deathed it, it went on cooldown, you couldn't get a Sleepwalk for a while. So I do like using Sleepwalk on other targets while targeting the healer to kind of pressure them into thinking I'm casting it on them. But here we got the warrior, we've got the hunter. We do want to try and cleave damage. We're going to nullify and shroud early against this team, and I'm kind of baiting them to attack me, because it's much harder for a warrior to stick on me as an evoker than it is a shadow priest. So I kind of run up in his face to bait it, and as soon as he's given up on that, we go for an oppressing roar deep breath stun. This is going to enhance the duration of it, likely forcing medallions and trinkets. Dragon rage, tip the scales fire breath. That's the big opener. We combo it with eternity surge and multiple mass disintegrates to start cleaving them down. We're going to trinket out of this trap. Here we're going to try and fake shadow or death by stopping our sleepwalk, and then we go for the sleepwalk again. This locks the priest down in place, buying us time to get more pressure. We get pain suppression. I go for another sleepwalk. Really unlikely that we're going to be able to hammer the hunter down through pain suppression here. Honestly, probably would have been better targeting the warrior for a moment. We're going to use our fire breath again to enhance our disintegrates, and this is going to give us a mass disintegrate as well, which lets us hit multiple targets. I'm spamming sleep on the arms warrior. I'm trying to soak interrupts and disrupt the warrior from getting uptime on the shadow priest. Now that you can spam sleepwalk, you can use it basically like a warlock spamming fear, and we push in on the priest. He fades my first sleepwalk. We go for it again. I didn't see a death in the opener, so I just assumed he wasn't probably going to be deathing. Deep breath. We hit 2. You really want to just be sending your cooldowns basically as soon as you get them, because they're actually quite low cooldown. And if you end up sitting on them for too long, then you get less of them in the game. You get less overall value. So we're going to shoot Shattering Star, spam out some disintegrates. I see my Sleepwalk DR coming off on the priest, so I'm flying towards the priest, and I'm off healing myself. I see my Druid in mind control. We can kick that with a Quell, try and rotate away, get a Sleepwalk on the healer, and then immediately go for the win here towards the Hunter with no trinket remaining. We go for sleep again. Druid gets a clone, so I'm just going to do damage instead. Spamming out some disintegrates. That gets void shift. We'll hover away from the warrior, trying to always kind of kite the warrior at the same time if they're attacking you, but it's ideal if the warrior's hitting you, honestly, over the Shadow Priest. Eternity Surge here because we got no disintegrate charges. Spam out some more casts, get a nullifying shroud for this binding shot so I don't get stunned as I walk through it. And we force another wall, so I'm going to rescue the Shadow Priest out of line of sight of the Hunter, forcing the Hunter to move in aggressively, which is going to then drag in the enemy healer to the middle of the map, which will make it easier to do this. Deep breath, hit 3 targets, look for a Sleepwalk out of the deep breath, fly back forward, and we get the trinket from the priest with this. Priest is coming in for a fear. We can't really avoid it. We're just going to try and hit a fire breath on as many targets as we can, disintegrate through. Lots of damage with Shattering Star procs as well. Super fun class with the set bonus right now. If you're looking for something simple, fun, it's a lot. We push forward to try and kick the healer. We don't have it. We don't even need it. So we're just able to drop the Hunter here in round number 2 and continue dominating. You can see if you're maximizing your rotation that you are going to do a remarkable amount of damage on Devastation. Like I was doing sometimes upwards of 1.5 to 2 million like sustained DPS for a game, and it's pretty much all one button. So this spec is really good across the board. I don't honestly know why more people don't play it. It's got to be an aesthetic thing. It's just not a popular aesthetic because if we're talking simplicity and power, it's got the double combo. But now we got the Marksmanship Hunter on our team. They got a Warrior and a Shadow Priest. Again, if they go on our caster, we got to peel them with spam Sleepwalks, but we're pushing in aggressively. I want to bait the Warrior to attack me. It's always really good to bait melee to attack you because you're just really hyper mobile. You have 2 hovers and you deep breath, it resets those hovers. We're spamming Eternity Surge opener here, kind of going slower. I should have waited for the Blade Storm, but I saw him on DR, so we double deep breath in, look for a Sleepwalk out of the deep breath. We get the chain CC. We can kind of focus down the Shadow Priest and the Warrior with mass disintegrates. Don't really want to be hitting into pain suppression. We use our Dragon Rage, tip the scales, Fire Breath, the classic combo, and continue spamming disintegrates as much as possible. Spamming Sleepwalks now on the Warrior. Basically anybody that's off DR, I'm treating it like it's a cyclone, and I'm trying to slow the damage down to the Warrior as much as I can, since the Shadow Priest is our priority target at the moment. If the Shadow Priest ever becomes not our priority target, then we can start spamming Sleepwalk onto the Shadow Priest as well. We got Shadow Priest Trinket. I do see the Discipline Priest off DR, so I kind of want to get aggressive here. I'm just waiting for my hover. I could have used Zephyr to reset it and gotten in here a little bit earlier if I really wanted to. I'm surprised I haven't honestly moved in yet at this point. I think what I end up doing is I rescue the Hunter because he hasn't landed a trap the entire game. So I tried pulling the Hunter in to get him to land a trap, and I set him up with a deep breath stun so you could trap out of it, and then we just don't get a trap. So we're kind of sad. And then he's kind of pulled into this position, and he's not really moving out of it. But I was really hoping he would go for a trap if I was able to get him to the healer, because look how much pressure we have. We're so close to winning the game. If we get even a scatter shot, I think, on the healer, we'd be in a good spot. So now I'm going to have to try and carry the game. We get double fade from the Sleepwalk. This is why casting Sleep on the Shadow Priest here would likely be better. He ends up not deathing it, which is good for us. I'm trying to shroud these Void Volleys so I don't get feared and horrified during it. But we just really don't have a lot of damage this round. Our Hunter's doing like half the overall lobby damage. We're not getting a trap, so we're going to do whatever we can basically to try and carry this game. Sometimes when this happens, I like just targeting the healer and trying to go for an all-in, but it's just really unlikely. It just feels like it's a rough round, maybe a rough lobby for the Hunter. Next time we get him, we're going to have to try and up the carry potential if we're really going to be able to take this through. But we got another round here with the Warrior. And again, like I said in the first round, it's the same game plan. You want to push in with the melee DPS, and you got melee range against double range. Push in aggressive with them. And it comes to a point, right? If you completely run out of defensives, you're going to need to run away as a team, and that's something you adapt to in the moment. But at the start of the game, when you have defensives, you kind of have to push the pace. Otherwise, the other team will just kind of toy with your melee DPS, and they won't be able to really get anywhere, get anything going. So that's my best advice when you got like a hyper mobile ranged like a Dev Evoker. So I'm just flying in right away. I expect this Druid to try and stun, so I try Nullifying Shroud to immune Rake Stun. He ends up opening on the Warrior instead. We have Pressing Roar. I should have used a Quell there, but I get a triple stun onto the whole team, which is just as good. We go for a Sleepwalk onto the Druid, swap back onto the Hunter. We open on Shadow Priest to bait Hots, but I think based on how this Hunter's performance is going, usually in this lobby, the Shadow Priest would be a better target. But with the Hunter's performance, this is why you got to like adapt your targeting depending on the situation. If you notice there's just kind of a weak link in the lobby, switching to that is definitely a good idea. But also the Warrior has disarmed to shut down the Marksmanship Hunter. And I don't think healers are as afraid of Shadow Priest pressure as they are of aim shots, like you can see right here, which I immediately wall. Like I've used basically both of my walls in the opener against this hunter, because if you're going to go face to face, toe to toe with a marksman hunter, you're going to need to make yourself as durable as possible in that true shot window, because they will hit you just so hard. It basically will be unrecoverable. I'm sparing me Sleepwalks and Shadow Priest because that's the target we're not attacking, and I'm just trying to disrupt. Landslide Roots. I've got my Deep Breath. Trinket, hover in here for a Sleepwalk on the Druid. He's got no Trinket. I got Deep Breath. Let's fly through for a stun. Get a nice little double. Spam through. Instant Living Flame procs. Almost drop him there. Force Void Shift. Spam out Living Flame. We get Binding Shotted on it. Not really able to move here. Druid's got NS up. Tops the Shadow Priest. But I'm swapping off Iron Bark here for a moment. Trying to force the Druid to keep hots on different targets. As opposed to tunneling just directly into the Iron Bark. But as he's continuing to get lower, you can see that the potential is still there. So let's just hammer through. That was a massive execute. Little Fire Breath execute combo. We can drop them. Again, another game where we're doing double the DPS of most people in the lobby. But here we go. This is the challenge of the lobby. Can we win a game with the Marksmanship Hunter? So I respec into Scouring Flame, which is honestly something what I should have done previously, and I always forget to do, which is really important into Resto Druids. It's really important into Restoration Shamans. Those are the two main healers. The main reason is Earth Shield is the most potent healing effect for Resto Shaman, and you can just remove that every Fire Breath from all the targets that have it if you can hit all of them with your Fire Breath. And Life Bloom is very important for Resto Druids to make them have to reload their hots. So Scouring Flame is very important. We're going to, again, probably hover in here offensively. I kind of want to bait them to attack me as opposed to my hunter because he's having a tough time in the lobby. So these are things that you can do to like adapt to the play level skill of your allies. Is that you might play a bit more recklessly, you might play a tad bit differently. Here I'm just spamming Sleep on the Warrior, limiting his uptime during his cooldown, spamming Sleep on the Shadow Priest, really just trying to stagger the damage in the opener to make it easier for my hunter to survive because he's been having such a hard time in the lobby so far. I decided not trinketing this clone because I'm just standing on top of Void Volleys, so I'm probably just gonna instantly get horrified. So we just sit through the clone, rescue the hunter away, try and buy him a little bit of distance. We've done pretty much everything we can to peel in this position. So Oppressing Roar, and then my mouse broke. I don't know what happened, but like I couldn't turn my character. I was going to send that and turn around, but my mouse did not let me. So we're pretty sad about that because that was going to be my Oppressing Roar, probably double stun at least on the Priest and the Warrior. But I see an opportunity here. I need to go for a Sleepwalk, so we'll hover towards the Druid. Ends up kicking it. We can just Fire Breath. We get Feared. We're super annoyed. When you get chain CC like this, it's always annoying, but we still literally just want to get that Sleepwalk on the Druid as soon as possible so we can start getting some pressure. And honestly, I think Warrior might be a better target for a Marksmanship Hunter and Devastation Evoker. You can just pull the Warrior around. But I switch back on the Shadow Priest. I look for a Fire Breath. I want to purge that Life Bloom. We end up hitting it. We hit a lot of heal over time effects. Druid's going to be behind as a result of that. We can continue to cleave with Mass Disintegrates. It's always really good to poke Resto Druids also with damage because if they can keep Life Bloom on their DPS and never have to switch, they're going to be in a really easy spot to heal the game. But if they have to switch their Life Blooms frequently, it becomes much more difficult to heal. We Deep Breath the entire team, hover over for Sleepwalk, but he tree immunes it, and now our hunter's at 1%. So what are we going to do? We're going to rescue him, Verdant Embrace, dispel some bleeds, get some distance, try and Sleepwalk the Dispel on the Warrior possibly. And we're going to start kiting away. And this is what we should have been doing likely since the beginning of the game. We try and use the knockbacks again, the tail swipes and the knockbacks to push him away from his spear. I'm thinking the game is over in this double fear. Like we're just so low on health. I landslide root. I buy him a couple of globals. I spam sleep, buying him as many globals as I can. He gets binding shot off. Priest is going to come out of a stun in a second. We're still just spamming sleep on the storm bolt, doing whatever we can basically to just keep him alive. And then we're going to switch the Sleepwalk over to the Resto Druid, start hammering some damage. I see him rapid firing the Priest. And I kind of adapt my targeting based on whatever my allies are doing. So I'm just tracking their positioning, seeing who they're attacking, and I'm trying to sync up with whatever they're attacking. We kick the Cyclone here. We go for the Dragon Breath, tip the scales Fire Breath, and look at that, bro. We're almost getting a triple kill. We went from absolute ruin to complete domination in the last couple seconds of that round. So there's still possibilities to be able to squeeze through, even if you've got the dog of the lob who looks like they're going 0-6. Never give up, never surrender. And keep trying to do what you can. So in that lobby, we really abused Sleepwalk, trying to make sure that they couldn't connect during those critical moments when they had the target so low on health and you're thinking that it's game over. And we were able to deny them of their kill and advance through to round 5, which is now the most important round for me, getting 2400. We're going to fight a Marksman Hunter and Arms Warrior. They both do a tremendous amount of damage, and I got a Shadow Priest on my team. So this is, I thought the last round was going to be hard. This round is probably going to be just as hard. So we fly through, Shattering Star, Disintegrate. I'm baiting them to attack me. I want them to waste stuns on me. I don't want them attacking the Shadow Priest, so I'm just sending everything that I've got. I trinket aggressively, I Deep Breath through, I stun the hunter in the back line. I'm just trying to min-max my pressure, trying to play as aggressive as possible to try and get them away from attacking my Shadow Priest, which has distracted the hunter. And now we can spam Sleepwalks. We Sleepwalk the Druid on Dispel. We continue to hammer down disintegrates with shattering stars, and maybe we can sleep the druid again. Honestly, swapping druid with the shadow priest is not a terrible idea either. If you could swap through a stun and silence, it's really good. I'm trying to get fire breath to hit 2 here, but we only hit 1. But now the warrior's stripped of hots, so we can use Eternity Surge, disintegrate. We get kicked, not a big deal. We can living flame, but this double fear is more of a big deal. Definitely shouldn't have been hovering near the warrior here. Getting hit by that is definitely dangerous. We knock the warrior away, buy some distance with that fear. Cyclones come through, but it's not a big deal. Just landslide root the warrior, continuing hammering to damage down onto the hunter. I see a stun fear on the druid, so I don't really need to worry about sleeping. I can focus on fire breath. Here, dragon roars up on the shadow priest. You can see it here on the debuff tab. This is really good to remove with cauterizing flame. This is probably the best thing you can remove against a warrior, but I didn't in this position. But just in hindsight, if you see that debuff, it's really good against a warrior. Now the druid's coming off sleep DR, so we'll set him up with a deep breath stun, sleepwalk the druid, fly over to the warrior who's behind the pillar, and try and fire breath some hots off in the near future. Just disintegrate him a couple times. He's not overextending. He's repositioning back to the druid, so not able to really get too much there. Eternity Surge, swap to the hunter. Just trying to force cooldowns onto multiple targets, basically. Now we're going to rescue the Shadow Priest away from the tree. I don't know why. He just ran right back out there in the open. Druid in tree form is unlikely we're going to be able to kill him. So baiting the warrior behind the pillar and lining the hunter is the best thing we could do at this point in time. And just trying to fire breath those hots off continuously with the Scouring Flame. All of my talent build linked in the description down below as well if you wish for that. I hover over for a sleep on the Druid. That got a trinket. Eternity Surge, mass disintegrates, fear on the trinket. We're so close to a kill. He turtles at 10%. And in just one fell swoop, we're almost back in the game. Fire breath to purge all the hots off the warrior that he just reloaded. Our healer is taking quite a big hit here, so I've Verdant Embrace desperately, dispel his bleeds off during the spear, trying to slow down some of the pressure and force the warrior to reapply Ren or something there. Buy him a couple of globals to get some heals. Deep breath, double stun. Can try and hover over in here for his sleep on the druid now. He has no trinket. We trinket the scatter, go for the sleep, get the sleep. Warrior's kind of low. I've got my tip to scales fire breath. Hots are gone. He's still so low. He reflects an eternity surge. We fear him out of the sleep. We're so close. One more living flame. I can't believe that we haven't finished him. Another disintegrate with a void volley, and we're able to crack it out. We get 2,400, 5-round wins here on the Devastation Evoker. And you can see that it's got a nice balance of team utility, aggression, and defensive options. It has nice talents selection as well that you can flip between. It seems like the build is pretty locked in around disintegrate. I haven't seen a lot of Devastation Evokers playing really anything else. Maybe that will change if they can expand those options maybe into the next patch. I would like, you know, some more options than just the one particular build for Devastation, but the one build is really effective. It's really effective. Had a really good time on the spec. And this is probably one of my fastest 2400s of any of the specs. So if you're really looking for something to try and get that achievement before the season is over, I would highly recommend it. Other than that, thank you guys very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the subscribe button. You'll always stay up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, educational and entertaining content. Thank you once again, and I will see you in the next one.